welcome to Chef Richard's Kitchen. I'm Chef Richard Miller. Today we're going to go back to our comfort food. Everybody loves comfort food. The foods they grew up with as kids, they remember as, kids, the things they remember fixing for kids. And today's one of those, and we're going to make Salisbury steak. And Salisbury steak has been around for a long, long time. Its origins have been long, kind of merged into history back there. One interesting fact, though, is there's two trains of thought when it comes to former President Nixon. Some of them say that his favorite food was his wife Pat's meatloaf. But others say her meatloaf was actually made into patties, and his favorite food was Salisbury steak. Another interesting piece of trivia there is probably one of his favorite all-time meals was just a bowl of cottage cheese with ketchup on it. And if you think I'm crazy, you can actually find that out fairly easy. Well, I may be crazy, but at least not that. Anyway, let's go. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to start out with about 1.5 pounds of 80-20 ground beef. Into that, I'm going to take, and I'm going to put in 1/2 cup of grated onions. Now, I could have chopped them, diced them up very fine. So what did I use? A good old-fashioned grater. So somebody wrote and asked me, they said, why do I use, all these, hand tools, whatever? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm familiar with it. Number two is, remember, this is a cooking channel where I want people to step outside their comfort zone. I want you to cook. I want you to have fun. And I don't want you to have to invest in a lot of expensive equipment to do it. And you don't have to. What do I have? I've got a food processor, a blender, and, a couple other things. But that's it. There's a couple of things, and my KitchenAid. But that's really about it. So cooking can be done very, very easily, with nothing. Okay, let's put in a couple of cloves of garlic. Probably about a teaspoon or about a bouillon's cube worth of beef bouillon. About 3/4 of a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. A couple of teaspoons of Dijon mustard. And a couple of tablespoons of ketchup. All right. Now, add to that about 1/2 cup of panko. I'm using panko breadcrumbs mainly because I like the texture a little bit better. And finally, 1 whole egg. Okay, now here's where the fun begins. And yes, I did wash my hands before. Is this kind of similar to meatloaf? Yeah, pretty much. If you wanted to actually take this and put it in a meatloaf pan, it'd come out fine. All right, now let me go ahead and wash my hands, and we'll go ahead and make these into patties. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's make these into our patties. Now don't pat them and compress them too tight, because we don't want our patties to be, tough. Okay, there's 4 real nice looking patties. Let me clean up a little bit, and then we'll go to the stove and we'll fry them. Be right back. Okay, let me start the stove up, and in just a regular fry pan, I'm going to put a little olive oil in there, and we're going to let the pan preheat. So let me go to the stove. I'm just going to pour a little oil in here, and now we're just going to let it heat for a minute. Once it's heated, we're going to brown our steaks on both sides. Probably leave them on probably 2 to 3 minutes aside. Let them get a nice brown on them. Then we're going to take them out. We're going to let them rest a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and make the gravy to go on top of that. So let me wait for this to warm up once again. All right, I think the pan's heated up, so let's go ahead and take our steaks over and let's go ahead and brown them. Okay, now we have our steaks in the fry pan. We're going to let them just sit here for about a couple minutes, something like that. Get a nice brown on them. I didn't want to get them any closer or compact them anymore, because once again, I didn't want to steam them. I want to brown them. All right, let's see how they look. Holy, they're looking pretty good. Now let's brown them for a couple minutes on the other side. Then I'm going to take these off and we're going to put them on a plate. And we're getting a lot of nice brown bits or fond down in the bottom of this. And so while we let these rest, I'm going to go ahead and make the topping sauce for it. Okay, it's been there a couple minutes, so let's go ahead and let's take them out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut you off again, and I want to get set up so we can go ahead and make the sauce. And let's pull these out. Boy, don't those look good? So now give me a couple of minutes to get set up for making the sauce, and I'll be right back. Okay, now we're ready to make the sauce. So let's go back over to the stove. All right, our pan's nice and hot over here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in a half an onion that I basically, sliced. Now, a lot of people just say, go ahead and dice your onions. Okay, that's fine. I kind of like them. I kind of like them when they're a little bit longer. It's personal preference. If you want them chopped and diced real well, then go ahead and do it, for heaven's sakes. But I kind of like this way. And you'll notice all this nice brown fond down there. This will help start picking that up. And there's a lot of good flavor down in that. Now, if it's burnt to a crisp, obviously you don't want to get it up there, and you want to clean your pan beforehand. But just this, yeah, that's good. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to saute these onions until they're pretty much translucent. Get a little caramelization in there. Oh, those brown bits are coming up really nice. Just by the smell of this, I can tell it's going to be a very, very good sauce. All right, now you see they're getting a little bit translucent, not completely, but mostly. So let's go ahead, and I want to put about 5 or 6 ounces of sliced mushrooms. Some people like to use mushrooms, some don't. Once again, it's kind of like, do you chop your onion up in slices or do you dice it? It makes no difference, as far as I'm concerned. It's just personal preference. If I was giving an exam when it came to, cooking, and somebody wanted to use sliced onions instead of diced, if it's in just something you're going to put on top, I wouldn't downgrade them for it. Now, if there's something you're going to put in the, like the Salisbury steak or meatloaf or something like that, you don't want long strips of onions. Then you want them diced. But for this case, nah, it's just personal preference. Could you use other mushrooms for this? Absolutely. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and we're just going to let these mushrooms kind of sweat it out a little bit. We want to get some of the water out of them, reduce them a little bit, because we don't want the sauce to be too liquid. We want it to be nice and firm and a good consistency. You can see that they're starting to lose some of their liquid already. Okay. Now I'm going to put in a couple of tablespoons of butter. All right. Now, it's time to put in our garlic. There's a couple of cloves of garlic. And we just want to saute them just until they're fragrant. Garlic burns very, very easily, so we want to just make sure they're sauteed but not burnt. All right. Now let's put in a couple of teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce and a couple of teaspoons of Dijon mustard. Okay, our next addition is going to be 2 cups of beef stock. And if we were to put 2 cups of beef stock in this right now, it'd be pretty thin. So what I want to do is I want to add a couple of tablespoons of flour to this. When I add it like this, at this point, it's not going to clump. And also, while we're sauteing this, it'll also take the flour taste out. All right. So now we've got that. Let's take and let's pour in a little bit of our beef stock. right, now let this go for just a little bit, because remember, it doesn't thicken until it boils. But I do want to do one thing. I do want to do one thing before taste it. It's good. But let's take and add a little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. And try it again. That's really good. And we'll put the steaks in. There. Notice how that's thickened up real nicely. So now it's time we put our steaks back in. Alright, let's take our sauce and put it over the top. I'm going to turn down the heat just a little bit, and we're just going to let it simmer here for a little while until the meat's completely cooked and they're ready to go. Okay, they're right between 165 and 170 degrees, so that's fine, you know, for ground beef. So let's go ahead and let's plate. All right, go ahead and let's take one of our steaks here. Let's put some more sauce on. Okay, here's our Salisbury steak. Now, let's go ahead and garnish it a little bit. And I'm going to put a leaf of baby bok choy under it here. And a little bit of parsley on top of that. Actually, that looks pretty darn good. Now, the last thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and taste it. Wow. Remember how I said, would you serve this to someone that was going to determine if you're going to get your next raise or promotion or not? Yes, yes, yes. This is a definite yes for that case. It's absolutely delicious. Feel free to go ahead and make this. Make it, enjoy it, impress your friends, neighbors, whoever, but it's really, really good. Once again, thank you for watching my episodes. Thank you for being part of my audience. Take care. God bless. Remember, my first and prime directive, cooking should be absolutely fun. Thanks again for watching. See you next episode.